Good morning to everyone watching us on YouTube. We will be going live. We'll be starting the program in the next 5 to 7 minutes. Kindly bear with us. थांबलं मी लिंक इंस्टाग्रामवर टाकते. अनफ्रीज दे अनफ्रीज दे खालती पोचवला त्याचा तो छोटासा विंडो अनफ्रीज केला ना नाही तर बोलणारा माणूस दिसणार नाही टॉगल का होत नाही
पीपीटी ऑन करून ठेवला फुल स्क्रीन मोडला जायचं फक्त अनफ्रीज फ्रीज आउट नाही काय फरकच नाही पडत आता फ्रीज राहतो
बोलणारा कसं दिसणार
तू कोणाला दिसायची तिथे दिसतेस त्या कॅमेऱ्यात दिसतेस ऑलरेडी याचा काही नाही याच्यात फक्त झूमला मोहनला आणायला येते युअर कॅमेरा इज देअर
चालू A very good morning to everyone present here today. Today is day 2 of BNCA's national conference. I also extend my welcome to everyone presently viewing us online as we stream our session on YouTube. Welcome to day 2 of BNCA Research Hub's national conference, a prestigious gathering of experts, scholars, professionals and students dedicated to the theme Built Environment 3.0 Challenges and Opportunities. We are privileged to have esteemed dignitaries, distinguished speakers and enthusiastic participants joining us today. I am Nishigandha Sakhardande, the coordinator for the national conference and your host again for the day 2 opening session, and I assure you an engaging and insightful event ahead. It is my privilege to introduce our distinguished experts. Our guest of honor, Professor Architect Jayashree Deshpande, Director, Council of Architecture Training and Research Center. Our keynote speaker, who will be joining us remotely from United Kingdom, Dr. Mohan Sirivardena, who is a senior lecturer at Liverpool John Moores University, UK. We extend a warm welcome to all our guests and express our gratitude for their presence. I request the co-convener of the conference, Dr. Meera Shirorkar, to kindly address the online and offline audience about day 1 of the conference.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Meera Shirolkar, conference co-convener, and it is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to all the participants to the second day of the National Conference on Built Environment and Beyond 3.0 Challenges and Opportunities, being held in a hybrid mode. We are honored to have us, our esteemed guest of honor, respected Jayashree Deshpande Madam, Director, COA-TRC, our distinguished online keynote speaker who is going to join soon, Dr. Mohan Sirivardane, from the School of Civil Engineering and Built Environment, Liverpool, John Moores University, UK, as well as Dr. Sharve Dongde, Vice Principal of Bnca. I also extend my heartfelt greetings to our esteemed faculty members, researchers, and students joined offline and online. It is my pleasure to provide a brief summary of the insightful discussions and sessions from the day 1 of the BRH National Conference 2025. Let us take a moment to reflect on the key discussions of the insights from the day 1. The conference commenced with an inaugural session where conference convener Dr. Vaishali Latkar provided an overview of the conference schedule, followed by Vice Principal Dr. Sharve Dongde, who spoke on the contributions and contemporary relevance of the conference theme, effectively setting the stage for the two-day event. We are privileged to witness an insightful keynote address by Dr. Professor Manish Chalana titled There is No There, Paradoxes and Possibilities for the Built Environment in the 21st Century. His address explored critical themes such as density versus livability, innovative urban design model, and the concept of Vancouverism at the neighborhood scale. He emphasized the balance between preservation and progress, advocating adaptive reuse as a sustainable practice that integrates old and the new structures harmoniously. Dr. Chalana also presented compelling case studies, including Mesrab downtown Doha, which reinterprets vernacular elements in contemporary urban design. He further highlighted the paradox of the smart city versus human city, using Singapore as an example of the smart nation, and underscored the cities are truly smart when they adopt a human-centric approach. His address provided a global perspective on alternative urban practices while addressing the challenges and opportunities shaping the future of the built environment. Post-inaugural ceremony, parallel sessions were conducted in 2 separate rooms with 2 themes each chaired by 2 session chairs. The sessions on cultural heritage and environment emphasized the importance of integrating architectural heritage conservation with sustainable design principles. Presentations showcased how historic structures can be adapted for contemporary use while maintaining cultural integrity, and how urban planning can incorporate climate-responsive strategies to mitigate environmental challenges. The theme of sustainability and climate resilience was a key focus with discussions on eco-friendly materials, passive design strategies, and policies for environmental conservation. Speakers highlighted the urgent need for reducing carbon footprints in construction, emphasizing innovations in green infrastructure, water-sensitive urban design, and energy-efficient buildings. Case studies were presented during the sessions demonstrated successful implementation of sustainable urban planning models, offering valuable insights for future projects. In the theme, Education and Research in Architecture, speakers discussed emerging pedagogical approaches, the role of digital tools in architectural education, and ethical considerations in research and practice. The dialogue reinforced the significance of rethinking design education to equip future architects with the skills necessary to address real-world challenges while maintaining ethical integrity in their work. Lastly, the session on landscape explored the evolving role of green spaces in urban environments, focusing on biodiversity, conservation, ecological restoration, and the socio-cultural aspects of landscape architecture. Presentations highlighted how well-planned landscapes contribute to public well-being, resilience against climate change, and the overall aesthetic enhancement of the cities. Discussions also underscored the importance of policy-driven landscape planning to ensure that the urban green spaces are preserved and expanded in a rapidly growing built environment. The rich discussions of the day reaffirmed the need for sustainable, ethical, and innovative approaches in architecture and planning. These insights set the stage for further explorations in urbanism, technology, regenerative design, and artificial intelligence in architecture, which will be discussed today, that is day 2. Thank you to all the presenters, session chairs, and attendees for an engaging and informative first day. And now we look forward to another productive day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Meera, for the summary of day 1. I would like to invite our esteemed guest, Professor Architect Jayashree Deshpande, along with our convener, Dr. Vaishali Latkar, and our co-convener, Dr. Meera Shirorkar, to kindly wear the garlands on the busts, please. To symbolize the enlightenment that knowledge brings, we shall now pay our tribute to Bharat Ratna, Maharshi Dhondo Keshav Karve, and Goddess Saraswati and invoke their blessings. Thank you all. May I request you all to kindly take your place on the stage, please. I would now like to invite our guest of honor, Professor Architect Jayashree Deshpande, to kindly deliver the address address the audience. Professor Architect Jayashree Deshpande serves as the Director of the Council of Architecture's Training and Research Center, fondly known as COATRC in Pune, Maharashtra. In this role, she oversees various training programs aimed at enhancing architectural education and practice across India. Under her leadership, COATRC has organized numerous workshops and faculty development programs, including collaborations with leading architectural institutions, including our own college, MKSSS Bnca. Her efforts focus on integrating cultural heritage and digital methodologies into architectural curricula, reflecting her commitment to evolving architectural pedagogy. I welcome you, Professor Deshpande, to kindly give the inaugural speech.
Thank you. Thank you, Nishigandha. A very good morning to all of you. Thank you, Nishiganda, for giving me the space. And before I begin, I would like to express my gratitude and a big thank you to the entire team at BNCA, led by Dr. Professor Anurag Kashyap, the principal of the school, Dr. Charveya Dhongde, vice principal, the convener and co-convener of the conference, Dr. Vaishali Latkar and Dr. Meera Shirolkar, and the team, Dr. Swati Sahasrabuddhe, Dr. Chetan Sahasrabuddhe, and everybody here. Actually, all of them are so closely known to me that it's difficult to name some and not name the others, but I know they will understand. So a big thank you to Team BNCA for having me here. It's a privilege and an equally good pleasure to be here and speak to you. The topic of the conference says built environment and beyond. And I'm really excited to see the audience today because I knew that there would be architects for sure. But it's good to see to be architects, and they are not just to be architects, but we also look at to be planners, to be environmentalists, to be policy makers, and so many of them. So this is an audience which is going to take the thread forward into practice and into reality. And that is something that we all look forward to. So let us see what is said about the built environment. There are two parts to the topic that we are going to be looking at today. It says built environment and beyond. So before we go to the beyond, let us look at the first part of it, the built environment. Jan Gehl has said that environment is something that says first life, then spaces, and then buildings. The other way around never works. It means that you have to put people first. Only architecture that concerns human scale and interaction is successful architecture. Here again, the focus is on the human and the human scale. And khanta je म्हणतो मराठीत. I shouldn't use the word in Marathi, but it is like something which is unavoidable and something which you are not liking so much in a society which is becoming steadily more privatized. So we are using private cars, private computers, private offices, gated communities, and slowly our interaction with the rest of the society is diminishing. So what is essential to build a society which comes together is good public spaces where everybody can come in and everybody can interact and learn. So the built environment, understanding that fast, is a space where we as architects contribute to the creation, where everybody lives, where everybody grows, expected to grow. So it has buildings and structures. We are taught to design. We build structures, we design structures, beginning with residential, we go to commercial, we go to industrial, mixed use, and so many different types of structures. Then comes the social infrastructure, which looks at maybe hospitals, schools, museums, public buildings. Then we have the public open spaces. It is actually we are learning in this sequence, isn't it? So then in the third year we look at public spaces, we look at green spaces, the physical infrastructure, the road networks, mobility, transportation. And where is the human, the person for which we are going to be designing? The term built environment is used when we refer to the surroundings which are created for humans, by humans, to be used by humans. So the human occupies a very, very important space in the built environment. Here, I would like to share a little video which was created by the UN Habitat. This is a video which came many years ago. If possible, let's see if we are able to link to that. Do we have a net connection here? किंवा त्याच्यात पण आहे त्या मिनिमाइज कर गो टू माय पेन ड्राईव्ह
त्याच्यात व्हिडिओ
आहे
हे प्ले करू.
साऊंड
Cities generate over 75% of the world's wealth. This attracts lots of people looking for a better future. But more people need more housing. Lack of affordable housing means that living in slums is often the only alternative. There is now an increased need for basic services. These services are often expensive and don't work well. The consequence? Diseases and epidemics become the norm. People need to earn a living. If they can't find regular jobs in their city, they will look for money somewhere else. Informal economies boom, as do illegal activity. Many cities currently follow traditional urban planning with strict zoning. Residential over here, industries over there, commercial in the middle, more residential suburbs all around. The result is urban sprawl. Cities get wide. And wide means that people need to travel longer distances. How do they travel? Mostly by car. This results in huge jams. This slows down not only traffic but also a city's economy. Cities are big polluters. They account for as much as 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions, the main cause of climate change. As a result, natural disasters and storms test the resilience of our cities more than ever. Loss of lives, destroyed property, and economic downturn are a global problem. In the face of all this, cities need to rethink themselves. Cities need to have a holistic, all-inclusive approach to their development so as to accommodate more people and provide equal opportunities for all. So what is a city that works? Cities need to get their street grid right, with sufficient intersections to ease traffic flow, enhance access, and interconnect the city. Cities need to embrace mixed land use, become more compact, blending residences, offices, shops, amenities. This cuts the need for long commutes. Cities also need to get their social mix right, promoting neighbourhoods with a variety of housing types for all budgets. Well-planned cities increase their job numbers by 15% by being just that, well-planned. But cities need to look beyond this, providing the right incentives for the economic sector to strive and focusing on providing jobs to the urban poor. Slums need to be upgraded and connected to the city, not only in terms of mobility, but also socially, to create a strong overall social tissue and foster inclusivity. Universal access to basic services is paramount. Cities also need to provide enough land for public spaces, at least 30% of their footprint. Public spaces are vital for social exchange. They are spaces for leisure, fitness and culture, and where citizens interact. Cities need to free themselves from the dominance of cars by setting up attractive, affordable public transport systems and promoting non-motorized mobility such as walking and cycling. That will not only reduce congestion, but also help to curb pollution. Cities need to become greener to help alleviate the effects of climate change and provide a clean environment for their citizens. At the same time, cities need to become resilient to the increasing adverse effects of climate change. All this makes for a happy city.
UN Habitat for a better urban future.
So this was a video which was created by UN Habitat, and it was created by having multiple photographs which were put together. And I liked this video because it was done in a material which we are all familiar with, that is paper and cardboard. So I thought that it would relate to our thought processes better, and I'm sure many of you would have seen this before, but it was more apt at the theme today. So it brought to the forefront so many of the issues that are plaguing our cities today. So we have increased need for basic services. You will find that many of our spaces in the cities do not have access to these services, giving rise to diseases and epidemics. There's a need to earn a living because people from the rural are migrating into the city, and when they don't get a good living, their informal economies are blooming, and there is a lot of illegal activity happening there, which all of us are aware of. Why does this happen? Because as architects and planners, we adhere to very strict zoning policies. So we are saying that this is residential, this is commercial, this is industrial, and therefore people stay in one place, they work in a different place, so they are traveling by motorized transport, there is pollution, there are traffic jams, there are gas emissions, and so many other things happening. We ourselves are creating cities. That is our built environment. So the film that we just saw talks about holistic, all-inclusive approach to development. It says that create a very strong social fabric. So what do we understand by a social fabric? Is a fabric where all kinds of people can come together and coexist happily. So it fosters inclusivity, provides equal opportunities, ease traffic flow, and so many other things which we are so familiar with. We know this, we are aware of this, we are facing it every day. While coming to college, we are spending a lot of time on the roads coming in the matter of the commute. But what is it that we do and we can do? That is important. The Government of India is coming up with a lot of initiatives which try to mitigate these challenges, and the Ease of Living Index by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is one such initiative which says that India is projected to add 416 million urban dwellers to the world's urban population, which is a huge figure. And we are projected to become home to 58% of the global population. So are we aware of this? This comes with a lot of challenges. This is a little graph which I thought, and a bar diagram which I thought may help us to understand the gravity of the situation. If you look at India in 1990 and look at the projection for 2030, you'll find that population has almost doubled. Look at the different categories that are there, and you'll find that the grey, which is the smaller cities, is less than 3 lakh of population. Is growing, we understand that, but look at the higher ones, the colored part of it, where you have cities from 3 to 5 lakh, 5 lakh to 1 million, 1 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 plus million of population. The red, that is 10 plus million, is also increasing equally fast, and that is where our expertise is coming into play. If you look at the other graph, you will find that the 2025 line reaches almost a plateau at the green. So it means that the green represents the rural population and the red is the urban. So does it indicate that the rural population is going to decline and the urban is going to increase? So where is this population going? It means that from the rural they are moving to the urban in search of opportunities, in search of livelihoods. Is the urban offering this to them, is the million-dollar question. So Christopher Alexander says that we as architects are building lot of things, but we cannot build it in isolation. It must also repair the world around it and within it. That is so important. So something that you insert into the society must also contribute to bettering that society and not just continuing with whatever is happening. The city must be made by all the people in the society. Unless these people share a common pattern language, this will not work. It means that all of us must contribute, not just architects, but everybody who is living in the society must contribute. Jane Jacobs says that cities have the capability of providing something for everybody only because and only when they are created by everybody. So here again, the focus is on everybody. Big cities have difficulties in abundance because they have people in abundance. We have seen that the population is going to grow. But lively, diverse, intense cities contain the seeds of their own regeneration. That is what we have to catch and work on. The city is the locus of the collective memory. Those of us here who come from a generation before the youngsters and to be architects that are here will certainly relate to the kind of life that they led in the very same city that they are working in. And they will find that there is a vast difference between what was then and what is now. So one cannot make architecture without studying the condition of life in the city. So instead of just doing theoretical problems and trying to complete the curriculum, let us open our eyes and look around. Architecture, our own Charles Correa is saying, architecture is concerned with much more than just its physical attributes. It is a many-layered thing. Beneath and beyond the strata of function and structure, materials and texture, lie the deepest and most compulsive layers of all. This is another thing that we need to remember. If we had to design a city from scratch, knowing what we do know about climate change, resource scarcity, urbanization and what do we do differently? So we are trying to say that a society is formed by people coming from different religions, different regions, and bringing in different cultures. A society will be healthy only if it is an amalgamation of all this and not independent entities. The livability index gives us so many criteria which begin with maybe dignity, accessibility, conviviality, participation, empowerment, and equity. We generally look at the basic needs. So when we are designing a building, we look at the services. We will say where are the toilets, how is the water supply, where is the rainwater going to be drained off, electricity, air conditioning. All these are the basic things that we are trying to address. Are we also looking at what the users are going to be getting out of it? Are they contributing to the construction of these buildings? Are they going to be equal decision makers in deciding what the built environment is going to be and what they are going to be using? I remember when we were in school, we were told that we need to educate the client. I don't know whether our teachers are still saying that in the college. We say the client doesn't know, you have to educate. But I think now is a time for reversal. We have to learn from the client and not the other way around. We know more about the mechanics of construction, but they know more about the use of the structure that you are creating. Therefore, it has to be a learning from the client, not educating the client. We may be professionals, but we need to learn from the society. We need to be learning from the users. There is a lot of talk about participation and empowerment. In sociology, there are terms called basic needs and higher needs. So the higher needs are what give you the dignity to live, because these are the needs which give you mental and emotional satisfaction. And these needs come from the concept of accessibility, participation, and empowerment. Today, gated communities are becoming so popular because we are scared of going out and because we feel that there could be something untoward happening outside, and therefore we are building gates, we are building walls, we are building higher walls. But when do we learn to bring down these walls and include everybody within our community? That is a learning that we need to do very quickly. So there are 4 pillars to this ease of living, that is institutional, social, economic, and physical. These are some of the components. So if you look at the physical, which is what we are dealing with all the time, so we have all the services there, solid waste management, power supply, water supply, whatnot. All this is something that we do as a regular thing. Then we come to economic, because it is giving employment to a certain sector of people. But how often are we looking at the social? Do our public spaces engage and allow every section of the society to interact with each other? And what are the policies that are there in place? And how do these contribute to making a better social living? So these are the 4 indices and four verticals of the index. And although these are showcasing several issues with each index, what I suggest is that we look at what are the ways out. Once we know the issues, we can search for the ways out. So, what is livability? Is this it? Is this it? We know that these slums are housing a huge number of commercial activity, a huge volume of commercial activity which is thriving. But are we trying to get rid of it because it is an eyesore in a city where the elite are living so close to the slums? So how do these people live? This is something that we are facing regularly. Every year our streets are getting flooded because of climate change. We are trying to mitigate that, but how successful are we? We have our own culture, we have rituals which involve everybody, bringing them in. But are we creating spaces which encourage this? काय झालं? So putting together all these images, I believe that we can find solutions to these problems once we acknowledge that these issues are there. There is a need for an interdisciplinary approach, and that is what comes in the beyond, that is a part of our conference. So we looked at what is the built environment, and now we look at beyond. To bring the beyond into the built environment, we need to involve people from all these different disciplines to make a holistic society. I would urge our innovators here, our policy makers who are sitting here, future policy makers, to think whether whatever they are doing is the right thing to do, whether they can improve the way they are doing whatever they are doing. So question your motives every time. Think, question. And the next is you will realize that there are different ways of doing whatever you are doing now. So take that initiative. Act. Do it. And once you have done it, I'm sure there will be something that you will want to share with the others, so that for them it's a learning experience. So share. As architects, we are happy with the idea of doing, up to doing, act, do, tak we can do. But the sharing, the writing, the speaking about our work is something very shy. I don't know why. But I think it is a time when each one of us is doing something good, and each one of us needs to share this. Maybe this is the right time to say that Council of Architecture has created platforms where each one of you can connect with your dreams, to share, to reach out. And I would love it if all of you come over with your individual suggestions, and we will find ways to implement that. As part of the initiative of this conference, we are also exploring the possibility of coming up with a publication specially on the conference and the conference papers. It would be nice to bring that into the public domain as early as possible. But there are also other opportunities to publish. So you can take, all of you can take the initiative to do certain activities in the public domain, in the society, to make it more livable and bring it to council. We will publish and share with all the schools of architecture, so that you become the mentors of a movement to improve the society. These are some of the references, and a big thank you once again to all of you.
Thank you so much, Jayashree Madam. I request Vice Principal BNCA, Dr. Sharvya Dhongde, to kindly come on stage and felicitate Architect Jayashree Deshpande.
I'm so glad that I attended your lecture after so many years. She has been my teacher. And it was almost nostalgia for me to hear you again after so many years. So nice.
लीव केलं जॉईन केलेली आहे. अरे ही इज ऑलरेडी इन द मीटिंग. यार अरे द मीटिंग इज स्टार्टेड ती याच्यावर दिसत नाही. एकच सेकंड अँड फ्रीज दिस. एक सेकंड ती बॅकग्राऊंड फक्त. सॉरी जस्ट अ मोमेंट. येस प्लीज. अनफ्रीज का केलं होतं? अनफ्रीज का केलं? अनफ्रीज कोणी केली? अवघड आहे झूमचा विषय. अवघड. एक सेकंड. आस्क हिम टू साइन इन अगेन.
Thank you, Architect Deshpande. Thank you, Sharvya sir. We are just getting our keynote speaker on the Zoom platform, so please bear with us. Give us one moment, please.
No, I had to end that call because we were switched in. Sorry, we're just setting up the online technicalities for the keynote by Dr. Mohan. He's connected online. We'll just stream it in a minute. He will see you here. And then he screen shares. You make it full screen from this laptop.
No, he's only sharing.
No, no, when he screen shares, you make the screen full screen. I'll do that, I'll do that. वैशाली कुठे आहे? सेम लिंक वापरून परत जॉईन करा मला. Hello, Dr. Mohan. Are you able to hear us clearly?
Yes, Mahesh, yes.
Wonderful.
Hello.
I'll hand it over to Nishiganda to introduce you formally, and then you may start sharing the screen, and then we can have your presentation.
Sure, thank you.
All right.
Very good morning, Dr. Mohan.
Good morning.
Should I unfreeze? Yeah, but so I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Mohan Sirivardena, who is a senior lecturer at Liverpool John Moores University, United Kingdom. Dr. Mohan is a senior lecturer at the School of Civil Engineering and Built Environment, Faculty of Engineering and Technology. He possesses over 20 years of teaching and research experience. He graduated from University of Moratuva in Sri Lanka with a BSc Honours in Quantity Surveying. He also holds a PhD and a postgraduate teaching qualification from the University of Salford, UK. Dr. Mohan has held academic positions at University of Moratuva, Sri Lanka, University of Salford, which is Salford and Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen, UK, covering undergraduate and postgraduate programs related to surveying, construction project management, and energy sectors. He is a fellow of the Higher Education Academy, United Kingdom. Dr. Mohan has functioned as a co-investigator in European Commission funded research projects and also is a knowledge transfer partnership. As part of his research projects, he has closely collaborated with major UK companies such as Baa, Balfour Beatty, Highways Agency and Manchester City Council. He has published over 50 research publications in international refereed journals and in conferences, and has also guest edited a journal special issue. Dr. Mohan's built environment related research interests include process improvement, lifelong learning, disaster management, ICT applications including building information modeling, that's commonly known as BIM, and through life management. He has served as an organizer for several international conferences held in the UK and also overseas, and also functions as a reviewer of international journals and conference papers. Dr. Mohan has supervised several undergraduate BSc and postgraduate research studies in MSc and PhDs, and has also examined several PhDs. Today, his keynote address on future-proofing the built environment, knowledge, skills and behaviors will truly get us thinking about the built environment. I would now like to invite Dr. Mohan to share his insights on the built environment with us. Over to you, Dr. Mohan.
Dr. Mohan, you can share your screen and start presenting. We are streaming this live. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, you can go full screen. Wonderful. Thank you.
Good morning. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And you can hear me well as well?
We can hear you well and we can see you as well, and the presentation slides are also visible.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you very much for inviting me to deliver this presentation. It's a pleasure again to connect with the team at Bnca. We've been working together for some time, and to be part of your national conference is a truly wonderful opportunity.
Dr. Mohan, sorry, I would just request you to hide the floating panel which says Zoom is sharing your screen. Yeah, just click hide.
Sorry.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. So, and I hope the conference is going well, and I've seen the contents, and it's truly informative. So, all the congratulations for organizing such a conference and carrying on the good work that you're doing at Bnca. My presentation today, in terms of keynote, the background to this is the fact that over a number of years, some of the things that we here in the UK are experiencing, but as well as some of the challenges that we ought to take into account going forward. As you heard, I'm an academic, and quite a lot of us here are also academics. So this is very much coming from a training perspective, but it's also about developing the skills base that's necessary for the future of the built environment. As an introduction, the term built environment is quite a wide-ranging, overarching term, and I don't think I need to go into details in terms of what the built environment entails. In terms of buildings, structures, infrastructure, public spaces, urban systems, and so on. And I'm sure you're hearing quite a lot of presentations in relation to the topics that I put on screen. One of the things I want to highlight here is the focus on human side and the focus on people. And this will be a cornerstone of my keynote speech today, because we are hearing and we are, of course, engaging in quite a lot of technology, but there's now an increasing recognition that people who are at the center of creating the built environment and making the built environment needs to be taken perhaps much more seriously than what we've taken before, and I'll explain the reasons why. And that's something that I would like to focus during my presentation today. Built environment, and what are we expecting to achieve from the built environment? I'm sure you know that I've been in Pune a couple of months ago, and I've seen the uptake in construction quite a lot of growth in the construction industry, and the projection is that it's likely to increase. In fact, India is considered as one of the countries that is projected to have a significant growth in the construction industry and in the built environment. And it's no surprise. But also worldwide, there's a significant demand now for both new builds as well as rethinking about what we have built already. And in doing so, um, some of the factors that we ought to take into account, um, and it's quite easy sometimes um, to lose priorities, if I'm to put it that way. So, and myself, my background is quantity surveying, so I'm looking at very much from an economic and a commercial perspective of construction. But that doesn't mean that that should take the top priority as such. We are building for people, for human health, for well-being, and that should be a key priority. Um, and COVID, to some extent, during during the pandemic, did brought buildings into focus. Do we have the buildings um, that really suits us? Um, Up to that time, the understanding was that buildings are there to protect us. But if you recall, the instructions during the COVID period was, as much as possible, apart from our houses, is to keep away from buildings, and that's because of the risk of the spreading the virus. So these things brings buildings into sharp focus. But it's not just about buildings. Of course, infrastructure, energy, transportation, and so on are a key part of it. Another important aspect that looking at the future that we ought to take into account are how do we foster social interactions and what sort of communities are we building? Um, with with increasing urbanization, there's also the risk of what's called the social isolation, and this is more so now for particularly a factor to be considered for developing countries, as developing countries move through a rapid economic development and urbanization, which brings changes to lifestyles. Um, are we designing our built environment to keep the social interactions, um, and and are we designing the built environment, our urban spaces, as well as our other spaces in a way that helps community development? Is again something that uh, future built environment needs to take into account quite quite seriously. The connections between built environment and economic activity and what's called the prosperity is I don't think I need to stress too much on that. Um, Built environment on one way is an enabler for economic development. We've seen the capacity to produce, production capacity through industrialization and so on. Yes, built environment is an essential part of it. Transportation, provision of energy, and so on. Yes, but also at a macro government, at a macroeconomic level, built environment is a key um, pillar of any country's economy, um, mainly because of its forward and backward linkages. So, having a sustained built environment, particularly with its activities, is essential. When one looks at um, the national accounting, the key economic indicators, one of the measures we use is the GDP, the gross domestic product, and construction activity accounts for a significant portion of it. But it's more than what the GDP figures actually reflect, because construction is the market for a lot of other sectors, a lot of other manufacturing sectors, um, chemical industries, and so on. The outputs of those industries are used in the built environment, in new builds as well as maintenance of the existing building stock. So, in terms of looking at the future of built environment, um, it's essential that economic activity within the built environment is maintained in a way that it sustains the workforce, that it sustains the activities within it. Commercial organizations, if they are not performing and if they are not sustaining, then that brings significant amount of pressures in terms of employment, and so on, which then leads to a number of other issues within the society. Of course, I've touched a little bit before as well in terms of environmental conditions and sustainability. Um, Sustainability is a key word that now cuts across many of our discussions, um, and and the um, and and the relationship to obviously creating the right kind of environmental conditions, including environment protection, I think is is again a key point of it. Whilst we've discussed all of these things, yes, built environment does reflect one's cultural identity and heritage. Um, Again, I was lucky to be involved with Bnca a couple of months ago when we came for a research project, and we had some of the heritage walks and so on. It's not just about building buildings or um, building roads and so on, but also um, doing it in a manner that reflects history, that preserves history and the heritage, and so on. So, in catering to human needs and human values, going forward, these are some of the key aspects that I thought are necessary to be considered. Now, as I said before, um, coming from a higher education institute, primarily, I am in the field of providing skills, knowledge, and to some extent imparting behaviors. So, where should our response be, and what are the challenges that we face, and some of the key priorities that we should focus on? Will be the focus of the next few slides that I'm going to present. Future proofing is a complex endeavor. Why I say that is, buildings and other infrastructure are built for the future. Now, future, there's always, the uncertainty. So we go on assumptions, we go on anticipated outcomes, and so on. But it's quite likely that that the future may not necessarily turn out to be what we anticipated for. So there's really a question of whether we can actually future-proof the built environment, because mathematically one could argue we cannot predict 100% what the future needs are and how the future will unfold. There is some truth in it, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do anything about it. We may not be able to predict the future, but we may be able to provide something for the future. So I think it's worth considering the idea of future proofing within the built environment, within those parameters. The adaptability of the built environment, there, adapting to future challenges, is crucial. And some of the challenges include climate change, changes in technology, and importantly, demographic shifts and the social needs. And I want to particularly focus on the changes in the demographic shifts and social needs here. A key issue here in the UK, as well as a number of developed economies such as Australia and the United States, is the skill shortage. If one looks at literature as well as on the media, in the UK, it is the issue of absence of skilled professionals is being talked about quite a lot, and that's partly due to the demographic shifts we are seeing. There are changes in the population pyramid. Now, different countries may experience this in different ways, but the issue still remains a central aspect. On one hand, we are experiencing a situation where we have less people associated with the built environment. That ranges from professionals who will design, manage projects, to those working on the sites. The other aspect is the changes in the attitude. There's increasing evidence that built environment still isn't seen, particularly the construction industry that services the built environment, isn't necessarily seen as the go-to place for young professionals. The attitude that the construction industry being seen as a bit of a male-dominated and an adversarial place doesn't help. So future-proofing does require taking into account the changes in the population, changes in the age groups, changes in the birth rates, and so on, but equally about the kind of skills development, the development of the people that's necessary to have a sustained and appropriate workforce. And the fact that built environment interacts with many disciplines, I don't need to go into details. It's a very it ought to be a very collaborative, multidisciplinary environment. That is necessary, and the more collaborative it is, the richer the outcome is. But it does bring challenges. And going forward, we ought to, particularly in developing our behaviors, that is something that educational institutions, as well as collectively the organizations within the built environment, um, requires focusing on. So this is, by no means a comprehensive list, and I'm not in any way pretending to be so. But some of the key challenges that we face today, and are likely that we're likely to encounter in the future, can kind of summarize into these five key points. The climate adaptation. Now, whilst I talk as if today, being the 1st of March 2025, it's worth taking into account that we live in an environment, in a world where still the issue of climate change is causing some amount of debate as to whether this is human made or whether this is natural, and what our responses should be. So, the synchronization or the lack of synchronization between politics, policymaking, and the professional responses will no doubt be a key consideration. But one thing that is clear is that adaptation strategies are necessary. So it's not necessarily about developing for a given specification, which what we used to do as the engineering approach or the architectural approach, but strategies which allows the built environment to be much more responsive is key. And part of that is also about having sustainable materials, and more importantly, sustainable systems. So that includes not just focus on energy efficient or environmental friendly materials, but work practices where we reduce waste, where we improve efficiencies, we work in a manner that allows its professionals to end up in a satisfying work environment is key. Now I'm pleased that I'm part of a team that works with Bnca in terms of developing responses as part of circular economy developments, and I hope that we can make a significant contribution going forward. Digital technologies, this is important, and I'm sure most of you in the audience are aware of it in some way. Yes, it's brought lots of possibilities, and including enabling me to connect from thousands of miles away. But yes, technologies are important, but more important is the information bit. What sort of data are we collecting? What sort of analytics are we doing? And what's the interpretation of it? And the more we focus on getting the best out of digital technologies, the better will it serve for future-proofing the built environment, in particular the value of information. Energy is a key consideration. Focus on renewables as well as other sources and a proper mix. And how does the built environment on one hand contribute to generation of energy systems, but also on the other hand, consuming the energy systems. So that's another key key consideration. In terms of regulations, yes, we have quite a lot of regulatory systems have come about, and then this is not the opportunity to go into details as such, but it's regulation plus the objectives of regulation. So what are we hoping to achieve through regulation? There's this cliche that what gets measured gets improved. What gets regulated may get improved, but regulated systems may require adaptation as well as we move forward, and looking at the future of built environment. As I said at the very beginning, key focus of the presentation is on the skills and on the people. So this is more and more relevant for me as an higher education academic in a higher education institute. So I kind of see myself more as an educationalist nowadays, as opposed to a professional in the built environment. So we are on the supply side of skills. So what kind of skills are we imparting on the next generation? Key aspect here is the ability to think as a whole. So systems thinking. Thinking about the interactions of what we do on the other parts of the system is easily said, but difficult sometimes to achieve. And this ability to understand the complex interdependencies between different systems, human systems, technical systems, and the relationship to economics and so on. And this is crucial. That may mean that to some extent we broaden our curriculum, we broaden our topics that we teach and so on at universities and our training colleges, and perhaps for the professional bodies. But again, there are limitations under which we have to deliver these. So again, something that we ought to think about as we go. So it's sort of systems thinking. The other, of course, is the adaptable side of it. As I said at the beginning, it's key part of future proofing is the ability to adapt. And are we developing systems that are capable of adapting, flexibility, and be able to accommodate sometimes unforeseen needs and requirements is a key aspect. Collaborative environments, creating collaborative environments, particularly within the people sphere, is essential. And I said at the beginning, we are now into an into an era where digital technologies takes a significant, almost a center stage now. From morning to for bedtime, we interact quite a lot with our phones, our computers, and so on. It's worth noting, as a result, are we missing the human interaction? Are we missing people skills? And as a result, going forward, should we take concrete steps to ensure that the ability to collaborate effectively is maintained? And I think this is crucial. So from a training perspective, we develop interdisciplinary collaborative modules where students from different disciplines, architecture, engineering, surveying, and so on, work collaboratively in projects. That brings interesting outcomes. It's challenging sometimes to work in projects collaboratively, because one may not necessarily have one's way in doing things. but that's a fact that we'll have to take into account. So it's important not to ignore the development of people skills in going forward. There is the view that technology will take on quite a lot of our activities going forward. Yes, it will, particularly the digital technologies, but that doesn't mean that the human factor should be ignored. So again, that is something to consider. Again, life cycle focus. As I said before, we build for the future. We may not necessarily be able to predict 100% the future, but we may have to provide for it. So with the life cycle changes, with the life cycle costings, and so on, and that's a key consideration. Now, the final one I want to present in this topic is the ability to data analyze as well as interpretation. Here, I want to particularly focus on the interpretation of it. We are increasingly seeing not just within our within social media, but even through other forms as well. In the rush to provide information quickly, there's the danger of us missing the nuances associated with our interpretations. So yes, it's important to be brief and short, because as human beings, we like summarized details, but that may not necessarily mean that we should be excluding the details and the nuances associated with it. So very important that we make evidence-based decisions, and as much as possible, and also that we respond to the occupant feedback. Here in the UK, few years ago, about 7 years ago, we had the Grenfell fire disaster, which led to quite a lot of fatalities as well as damage of for residential property. Again, was feedback, was complaints taken into account, and the investigations are ongoing. Quite a lot of the investigations have finished, and the reports are out there, and that's opening up quite a lot of eyes in relation to with whether we are interpreting the feedback in the right way. So skills development for us is a key aspect that future proofing will have to take into account. So yes, we are imparting knowledge, yes, we are imparting skills, but also the way the way we behave. Attitudes matter in this, so fostering the right attitudes, particularly as educationalists, a commitment to continuous learning. As professional, members of professional bodies, yes, we will undergo CPDs and so on. Sometimes, we are being, compelled to go through it, but that's only one part of the equation. It's more about attitudes. So learning isn't something that should stop at one point. We continuously learn and adopt best practices, and the reason being that our thinking being very much long term. So prioritizing the future resilience, and our short term cost savings. And I'm in no illusion that this is easier said than done. We are always increasingly being pressed for achieving cost savings, and it is the case even now in the UK. But I think future-proofing the built environment does require particularly developing professionals who will be should be required to focus on the long-term environments. Now, focusing on the users, very important, and and the feedback and obtaining continuous feedback from users is a key aspect of it. What sort of decisions are we making in relation to the built environment? Particularly the ethical approaches. Are we neglecting certain communities? Are we neglecting the needs of our workforce? Are we neglecting neglecting the needs of our users? Again, very important to consider. Vulnerabilities, accepting potential vulnerabilities, and developing future scenarios. So this ability to anticipate the future as much as possible and long-term thinking is a key behavior. I think that is that we have to kind of focus on. So as a sort of final slide, something I would like all of us to think through as we go forward are four main things. One is, yes, technology is important, standards are important, the books are important, yes, but let's not lose focus on our people. Built environment does remain one of the more labor intensive, people intensive areas, and it's the people that holds the cards really in having a better future, in future proofing the built environment. So development of people is key. The way we learn, yes, it's not just about learning within a program or a course, but it's about a lifelong learning. How do we facilitate that? So increasingly, universities and higher education institutes will have to look at that. So this is not just about continuous professional development, but it's about more cultivating, an attitude to continuous learning. Working in innovative ways, and particularly to the younger professionals in the audience, and I invite you to move out of our comfort zones. We may have to work with different sectors, learn from other industries. For example, if one looks at aviation, whenever there's a failure in an aircraft, the first to go to the site are the manufacturers. One of the first group of people to go to, apart from the kind of immediate responses. And that is one of the reasons is they're interested in how the product behaves. So perhaps we should be taking a more interest in the buildings that we've already built. How are they performing? And so on, before we move to the other think of the other things. So that is again another key aspect to consider. Working with organizations not necessarily of formal nature. For example, working with charities, informal organizations. That's another key aspect of it, where we reach sometimes underprivileged communities, rural communities, and so on, which is again important. And all of these, to me, calls for more responsive education systems. And how do we respond? So I think the universities, higher education institutes, as well as professional bodies and employers as a whole have a big role to play in making sure that we future-proof the built environment and impart the right amount of knowledge, skills, and more importantly, the kind of behaviors that are necessary. So I hope that was useful in some way and may have helped you to conceptualize your ideas as you move forward with the conference. So once again, thank you very much for the organizers and the team at BNCA for inviting me, and I look forward to meeting with you at some point in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mohan sir. It was quite insightful, all the ideas that you provided, especially about setting a way forward. We do look forward to having you here again one day in person and having a very healthy interaction with you about the built environment. We would like to take your leave now because we have to proceed for our sessions for the day. Thank you again very much for spending your worthwhile time and giving us your inputs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Um, with that, we come to the end of today's opening session. We commence day 2 and the concluding day of BNCA Research Hub's National Conference on the Built Environment and Beyond 3.0 Challenges and Opportunities. Today, we will be having 4 sessions in totality. We will be starting with the session on urbanism, planning and management in room number 108 on the first floor. Parallel to that will be the session on allied fields in room number 109, again on the first floor. Please help yourself with tea just outside the auditorium. Just before we all move out, please let us all stand for the national anthem. जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंग तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे. The sessions will begin in the next 10 minutes. So 11:45 on the first floor, we will be commencing the sessions. Thank you everybody. Have a good day.